अस्सलाम वालेकुम हज़रात, वेलकम बैक टू अनदर एपिसोड ऑफ थॉट बिहाइंड थिंग्स। आज हमारे साथ मौजूद हैं एक बहुत ही ख़ास मेहमान जिनका मुझे बहुत रिसेंटली पता लगा कि व्हाट दीज गाइज आर डूइंग एंड आई थॉट आईड ब्रिंग हिम इन। बट लाने का मकसद क्या था पर्टिकुलरली, क्योंकि मेरा एक ख़ास इंटरेस्ट रहा है रिसेंटली। मैं हमेशा शॉप्स में जाता होता था। बैक स्टोरी ये है कि जब मैं बहुत छोटा था, तकरीबन 5वीं जमात में था, तो मेरे वालिद साहब जो थे वो एक बैंकर थे। तो उन्होंने मुझे एक 5,000 रुपये का सप्लीमेंट्री कार्ड, क्रेडिट कार्ड बना कर दे दिया। उन्होंने कहा कि यू नीड टू लर्न हाउ टू मेक डिजिटल पेमेंट्स एंड यू नीड टू लर्न हाउ टू लिव विद इन अ मीन। तो 5,000 की जो पॉकेट मनी होती थी वो मुझे क्रेडिट कार्ड के ऊपर एसेंशियली मिल गई थी। एंड सो मैं शॉप्स पे जाता होता था, जाके मुझे होता था कि मैं कहीं क्रेडिट कार्ड दूँ और मैं अपनी वो लूँ। बड़ी एक्साइटिंग टाइम होता था उस टाइम के ऊपर। बट उस टाइम से मैंने रियलाइज़ करना शुरू किया, दिस इज़ बैक इन 2004-5 कि पाकिस्तान में मशीन्स ही नहीं है। मशीन्स हैं भी तो लोग कहते थे कि यार नहीं, मशीन काम नहीं कर रही, कैश कर दें। आहिस्ता हमने सुना डिजिटल पेमेंट, सब कुछ आता जा रहा था। लेकिन इवन आज तक ये मसला है कि पाकिस्तान में अगर आपने कैशलेस चलना है तो वो जो इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर है, वो मशीन्स का, वो पेमेंट ट्रांसफ़र का, वो एग्जिस्ट ही नहीं करता। एंड जाहिर है कि वो एक बड़ी कंफ्यूजिंग सी वो होती है कि ये मशीन्स किन की होती हैं, कौन लोग लेकर आते हैं, बैंक्स लाते हैं, कौन लाते हैं। एंड सो आई फाउंड आउट दैट दीज गाइज आर नाउ चैम्पियनिंग that machine infrastructure, and I thought I'd love to have this conversation. हमारे साथ आज मौजूद हैं Fawad Abdul Kader साहब. He is the country head of Paymob, Pakistan, and previously has been the head of digital financial services at NiFT, as well as the head of products branchless banking at Bank Alfalah. Sir, thank you so much for being part of the show.
It's great to be here. I really wanted to meet you.
I'm glad this happened. First, I'm going to start this conversation. First of all, trying to understand थोड़ा सा कि where were you born? Early life कहाँ पे गुजारी? And what was life like growing up for you?
So, I was born in Karachi. It was we belonged to a family that was like a middle class family. And we grew up like any other kid in Karachi who's going to school and playing in the evenings.
ये कराची का सुकून वाला टाइम था या ये थोड़ा सा खप वाला टाइम शुरू हो चुका हुआ था?
When I was actually born, this was around 1976. It was a great city. We were there like. But when I actually graduated out of high school, that was the time कि हाँ,
हालात ख़राब होना शुरू हुए.
Karachi was not that peaceful anymore.
अच्छा, स्कूलिंग आपने कहाँ से की थी?
Happy Home School.
अच्छा.
It was sort of a family school.
अच्छा.
तो बड़े cousins ने भी वहीं से पढ़ा, बड़े बहन भाइयों ने भी वहीं से पढ़ा.
अच्छा.
तो वो it was like everybody was there.
Was it something जो कि proximity में था इस वजह से, या was it like one of those legacy good schools?
Legacy good schools, right? अच्छा. So the school was founded somewhere in 48 somewhere.
अच्छा.
Yeah, it was one of the good schools at that time, right? Because we did not have brands of school at that time. So this was good school क्योंकि वहाँ उस ज़माने में parents ये देखते थे teachers कहाँ अच्छे हैं. पहले कौन पढ़ा हुआ है वहाँ से, उसका करियर कैसा ग्रो किया है. तो हम जैसे मैं बता रहा हूँ कि सिंस आई वाज द यंगेस्ट इन माय फैमिली, तो वो सारे बड़े कजन्स और वो वहाँ से पढ़ के निकले थे एंड दे डिड रियली वेल फॉर देमसेल्व्स.
राइट.
सो इट वाज सॉर्ट ऑफ अ no-brainer. Yeah,
makes sense. So where did you go for your university?
I did my university from an institute that was at that time one of the good institutions in Karachi. Its name was Petroman. It was affiliated with Shah Abdul Kader University. So did my computer science graduation from there.
Was it 4 years program?
4 years program.
Interesting. And I mean, my understanding is you're from the banking industry.
Yes.
With an education in computer science, one of the early birds जब computer science का boom था. How did that come about? I mean, you graduate in 2001, I'm assuming?
2001.
Why didn't you pursue immediately straight up कि यार मैं I don't know उस टाइम पे क्या होता होगा opportunities, Oracle वगैरह की consulting jobs या क्या, but what straight out of graduation?
Software houses were at boom at that time. Pakistan had started to have software houses. My brother was was in computer science as well. He did his graduation from FAST, did his MBA from IPA, so you can understand the pressure that I was in.
Yeah, so pathway bada clear tha ki acha, you know, he would have guided you, he would have told you kya scene hai.
Yeah. So he was into IT. I went there as okay, I have to do graduation. Did not make a choice there.
Right.
Then out of that, I actually wanted to teach.
Acha.
And around 4 years, I did teach.
What sort of teaching?
Everything. So I did tuitions. I taught in a school. I was teaching graduation level again in IT. So that was something I really enjoyed doing.
Interesting. Why don't you pursue that then? मतलब masters करते, professor बन जाते, I guess.
दो चीज़ें. एक तो ये कि of course the expectation from family is always कि you into the corporate world. And that actually especially after marriage वो काफ़ी एक strong feeling आने लगती है आपको कि you want to grow in your career, you want to do something, you want to make your family proud, parents and your wife. So I think it was more about coming into the corporate world, wearing a suit and tie, and representing the corporate world.
The image of a successful man.
Image of a successful man, yes.
Interesting. Yeah. So how do you switch? I mean, IT की teaching is a fairly, it's fairly difficult, I would say. कि उधर से बंदा अपना path पे निकालेगा. अच्छा मैंने
was much more paying as well.
The teaching gig.
Time, yeah.
So you had to take a pay cut.
Yes.
To make a switch.
Yes.
मुझे ये बताएं, how did that feel at the time?
Well,
because it's, again, that's a very difficult choice to make. A lot of people are stuck in those choices. काफ़ी दफ़ा लोग होते हैं वो ऐसी इंडस्ट्री में होते हैं जिसमें उनको मज़ा नहीं आ रहा होता, ग्रोथ नहीं हो रही होती, but they're stuck forever because उनको ये fear होता है कि यार if I restart, क्योंकि आप जब switch करेंगे तो you're gonna be the bottom of the food chain, right? Like you had 4 years of experience behind you, and so आप जो भी कर रहे थे उसमें एक आपका एक strength थी, एक background था, एक learning थी, and suddenly if you had to switch, that had to be really starting from scratch.
Yes, it was. So the first job that I got was a walk-in interview.
Achha.
There were 500 people, 5 were selected, right? So and I'll come to that later, but just to answer you, like I said, when you make mistakes early, you sort of become fearless after that because you've already made mistakes. And by this time, I had decided that whatever I'll do in my life, even if it goes wrong, I can always correct it, or I can always make a decision right. And later, actually, I read quote from Muhammad Ali Jinnah that I don't make right and wrong decisions. I make decisions and then I make them right. Right. So the thing is, I think that was the philosophy. I always thought that it was more important, and the family who stood by me for the time I was making mistakes. I wanted to do something and make them happy. Yeah.
Tell me about your first job and the interview that you got. Walk-in job ki bhi the.
Yeah. So this was after I got married, right? So I wanted to avoid going into the corporate world. So I would say I would, but I would continue to teach and everything. And my wife would mark job in the newspaper and tell me that these jobs are out there for interviews. And I had to go for the interview because she would set them up. This was a walk-in interview. So I walked in. There were like 500 people cramping outside the office building. And I thought, what am I doing?
And what company was this?
This was Cybernet.
Achha.
They were hiring for customer care executives for their offices that they were expanding in Karachi at that time. It was more consumer-based internet at that time, which was just. I think this was 2004.
And right when the broadband expansion was happening?
We weren't into broadband at that time. It was more of a dial-up.
अच्छा, ये still dial-up है.
It's still dial-up है.
Right.
ठीक है. और हम जो है वो dial-up जो है वो सर्विस देते थे. And it was a great learning experience there.
But how did you get it? 500 people must be from all over the place. What do you think was in you at the time that got you that job?
Two things which I always thought I was good at: communication and convincing people. Right. So that has been the reason I wanted to do teaching. I can always talk to people very comfortably and explain things. Some of my friends call me a professor for that reason. So yeah.
Interesting. How long were you there for at Cybernet?
I was there for 4 months.
Acha.
Yeah.
And then what was the next switch? And why?
Bank Alfalah.
Acha.
Okay. So I got an offer from the bank. And at this time...
Had you applied there?
No, I hadn't. So I had a walk-in customer.
Okay.
Who walked in. I serviced him and he went away. Next day he calls me and tells me, would you like to work for a bank? And I told him, why not? So he just gave me his email to send him my resume. I did that. Got an interview, got the offer. So
what was the job?
A call center.
Right.
As a call center, as a phone banking officer. And this was actually then, by this time I had realized that what importance my father brings to me. So I went to him and asked him. So there's an interesting story why I took this up, because I might have stayed at Cybernet, but my father told me that he wanted to be a banker when he came to Pakistan. And it was like, for him, it was a proud moment for his son to work for a bank. Right. So that's why I just grabbed on it.
Interesting. And so you were in Bank Alfalah for quite a while?
No, I wasn't. I was there for a year.
Okay.
And then I moved to ABN AMRO. And this was in Dubai.
Acha.
Yeah.
And again, what position?
Again, I got there as a call center executive. Later on, I became the supervisor there. But that's in ABN AMRO.
And वहाँ पे कितने से थे?
I was there for 2 years.
Acha. Was that the first time going out of Pakistan? Or rather,
when you say going out of Pakistan...
Not to visit, but like to actually settle somewhere.
To work.
To work, yeah.
Yeah. This is the first time I was traveling outside
with
Pakistan
family
to work. No, I went there alone. The intent was to bring my family in. Only once you hit Dubai, you actually... So Dubai is a different life altogether. Yeah. So once you go there, you realize the costs of living in Dubai.
Yeah.
And then, of course, my father... So this was a difficult time for us, because when I went to Dubai, my mother just passed away.
Oh.
My father was with my brother in England, and I had gone there. Then my father, when he returned to Pakistan, I thought it's best. One, because I'm not able to move my family there. Second, it's best to remain with the family. Then I came back.
Right. So it was purely for the family?
Yes.
And वापस आके तो वहाँ पे आपने बस जॉब छोड़ दी और बस वापस आके कि अब मैं देखता हूँ कि वापस आके क्या करूँ?
Exactly. So I was jobless for 2 months.
अच्छा.
Yeah.
And what was the next stint?
MCB.
ठीक है. So you really roamed around the entire sector.
So I got into MCB, and actually MCB was the point of change in my career. So MCB, I got into MCB. I knew that they had openings there. I applied there, got into an interview, got there as a supervisor for the call center. So that's how I started MCB.
And you mentioned कि switch आया था वहाँ पर, तो switch कैसे आया?
Because, so I was at the call center, grew there, became the training manager. Then in 2008, MCB ki union, so MCB got privatized in the 90s, 92, 93, right. Somewhere there. जब 2008 में उनकी यूनियन ने कुछ डिमांड्स रखी और उसकी वजह से काफ़ी टर्मोइल हुआ कि जहाँ पे MCB को 2-3 दिन तक MCB was like shut down.
Acha.
because the union was very active.
Right.
And at that point in time, I was actually asked if we could, because we weren't even able to respond to calls
Acha.
at the call center. And of course, for an organization, it's a concerning thing because your customers are completely out of touch.
Yeah.
So, and this was mainly focused in the head office vicinity, which was Karachi at that time. So I was asked if we could take these calls from Lahore somehow. And I said, why not? So we did a DR site for MCB in 4 days.
What's that?
Disaster recovery.
Okay.
So we actually diverted all the calls in 4 days from Karachi to Lahore. Of course, by then the things did settle down, but then they asked me if you could set up a call center there. I did that for them within 3 months. So that was the turning point where I also realized the capability that I had, other than communication and convincing people, was to manage projects and manage programs.
And so what did you then, how did you expand on that? Because again, generally मैं देखूँ तो call center and the pathway that you were on, उसकी growth है but एक certain level तक है, right? And so at some point that image of a successful man, वो कहीं ना कहीं आके peak करनी थी and फिर question आना था कि यार okay, what do I do next?
Yeah.
So where do you think you hit that?
So I created that call center, set it up. We started as a 9 to 5 call center, and then it became a 24 hours call center. And then MCB was doing, while I was at the call center, MCB was doing MCB Mobile, which was probably the first data-based mobile application in Pakistan. It was browser-based,
right?
But it was not an app, but it was the mobile payments.
The internet banking essentially,
in Pakistan, because in the same time Easy Paisa was launched, right, as the branchless banking play, but it was more of a USSD based transactional play. This was more of internet based, data based transactional play. So in that, of course, someone else was leading that, but I was partnering on the services side, being the manager call center. The services side, I was supporting there. So when MCB decided to do their branchless banking, they asked me if I would like to lead that. And that was when I got introduced to digital payments or digital financial services.
Interesting. Did you switch a role, or was the role the same, but you were just...
No, I did switch. So I became the head of product for MCB Lite, which was eventually... So MCB Lite was the brand of the branchless banking wallet. And that was what we did at MCB. It was actually a branchless banking play, but again, it was a digital wallet at that time, because the branchless banking play in those days were mostly agent-based banking.
Right.
Like Easy Paisa, Jazz Cash came in, UBL Omni. But we were at that time the leaders in the digital wallet space with a Visa debit card attached to it.
Acha, interesting.
Right? So it was.
You didn't need a bank account. You just needed you could have opened a wallet separately.
Yes.
Interesting.
Yeah. We did this in 2011, by the way.
Why don't a lot of people know about this?
Okay, it was not marketed right. So what most of the banks have done after that, of course, it was again a browser-based play. We didn't have the flashy apps at that time, right?
Right.
But it was a very functional play, and we probably missed a trick by not marketing it at that time, because and I later on I started to believe that there is a right time for everything, right? When you do things even before their time, they sort of fade away.
Yeah.
Right. So that's what. So MCB Lite, I still, when I meet a few people and they are using MCB Lite, because we had sold it to the market in a different way. Like, for instance, this is your e-commerce wallet, right? Because a lot of people were afraid putting in their debit card onto the social platforms. अब तो बहुत awareness आ गई है, उस ज़माने में नहीं थी. ठीक है, तो वो लोग ई-कॉमर्स वेबसाइट पे अपना कार्ड डालते हुए डरते थे कि इसमें तो मेरा सारा पैसा पड़ा है डेबिट कार्ड के अंदर.
हाँ.
So there was like a security play. You can move your funds from your main account into MCB Lite and use this as an online card.
Right.
You can use it for digital payments through the mobile app itself. Right. So all that was, and I was amazed to see, even without any marketing, a lot of people adopted it and used it.
So the following decade, for most part, I think up until 2021. You were in the sort of digital payments and branchless banking space. Quickly, अगर आप मुझे उसका बताएं कि what was that sort of what did that decade look like? क्या करते रहे, क्या हुआ?
Sure. So in MCB, when I did MCB Lite and we did the wallet and we did the card, we launched it. I always wanted to do along with that agency banking, because I always believed that a product is as good as the distribution that product gets, right? So a product has to be distributed well, and this, if the product is for the masses, it has to be distributed, like sold on retail stores. So what I wanted to do was at that time was to sell bank accounts at retail stores.
Interesting,
right? Couldn't do that. But then Alfalah at that time was actually gearing up for its branchless banking play. And they were, at that time, Warid was there, right? So they had partnered with Warid as their agent network. So wanted to do agency banking, because in these 3-4 years, I had developed a liking for this space, the digital payment space. The excitement of converting cash into digital was great. And then agency banking was something in the branchless banking space that was important for me as an individual also to get an experience on, because I did not have that with MCB. So went on to Alfalah, joined Alfalah. We launched a brand. So I was the product head at Alfalah for branchless banking. And we were partnering with Warid at that time, and we launched a brand called Mobile Paesa,
right?
Which did well for a year. It started off, we captured around 4 to 5% of the market, but then Warid got sold, right? Jazz absorbed it, and then it merged into Jazz Cash, and we were left without an agent network. Then we had to re-strategize, and at that point in time, we got into the wallet play again, which I had already done in MCB. And the exciting part of that was that at that time, we also got into an arrangement with EOBI pension digitization. And then that wallet program, actually, we did a lot of other wallet programs, but Alfalah at that time gained this customer base, a pension disbursement platform, which we did for EOBI.
Right. I think वो एक आपका core set of customers आपको मिल गया हुआ था, जिसमें आपको पता है कि उसमें तो आना ही आना है.
Yes.
And so you sort of, that's your base and you grow from there.
Yes.
So is that the one that eventually sort of converted into Alfa for Bank Alfalah, or was that a separate product altogether?
Alfa was the digital app.
ठीक है.
Or digital platform.
Right.
Which was customer facing. This was more of the wallet,
the engine
and the
behind
card.
it.
Yeah, not the engine, because Alfa is a transactional play.
Okay.
This was a deposit play, right?
Right.
So this was, Alfa works on the branchless banking platform,
right,
as well as their core banking customers, right? So if Alfalah has a core banking customer, they can also use Alfa. Their branchless banking customers can also use Alfa. So Alfa is the front end app.
Interesting.
Right? Which connects to both of these customer bases.
From Alfalah, you switched to एक तो आपका वो था savings, national savings wala experience, and NiFT wala experience. Tell me a little bit about that, because that's slightly different from hardcore banking and sort of consumer facing us tarah se. So why did that happen, and what was that basically?
Okay, so Look, let me firstly differentiate between financial inclusion and digital payments, because this was my shift from financial inclusion to digital payments.
ठीक है.
Right? We had done a lot of wallets, we had done a lot of work on the financial inclusion part. And by this time, since the State Bank came out with the branchless banking regulation in 2008, a lot of players were working in that space. So when I left Alfalah in 2017, we were already in that space for 9 years.
Right.
Right? The idea was to actually explore something new where we go into digitization of payments. Right? At that time, Zafar Masood, who's the current CEO for Bank of Punjab, was
the person who survived the PIA crash. Right?
PIA crash. Yeah. Yes, he was the Director General at National Savings at that time.
Right.
He was DG there, and there was a program that started with the help of Karan Das, that to digitize national saving customers, right? And there was a complete strategy that had to be drawn. So I was pulled in by Karan Das and their consulting firm to actually lead the digitization project for national savings.
You mentioned earlier that कि आप उसको differentiate करेंगे. How would you differentiate? What is financial inclusion? अगर मैं कहता हूँ कि I have no idea what you're saying. So define the term financial inclusion and then define what digitization of sort of finances.
So in Pakistan, so we actually use 3 different terms, right? Banked, underbanked, and unbanked.
ठीक है.
Right? Banked are customers that have a banking account or even a wallet now.
Right.
Which is under the branchless banking space. Then there are underbanked people who have access to financial services, but like, for instance, through my father,
right,
or my brother. Like, you got a supplementary card from your father, you are an underbanked customer at that time.
Right.
And unbanked is who do not have any access to financial services, formal financial services.
Right.
Pakistan at that time realized, and I think it was very progressive of the regulator to come out with a regulation to actually help create financial inclusion, because documentation of economy was the key thing that had to happen. And for that, people need to channelize their payments, funds through a banking channel, right? So at that point in time, financial inclusion was important and is still important. Converting people who do not have a bank account into a banked customer, that's financial inclusion.
ठीक है.
Once they are financially included, right, you can have a checkbook. You can go to the branch and withdraw cash. That does not mean you're digitized.
Right.
Digitized is when you're able to use those funds digitally whenever you want it, right? That is more about access to your finances.
So digitization comes on top of financial inclusion. Financial inclusion is the first step.
Yeah.
If I were to just ask a follow-up question connected to this, I don't know what the data is, but you mentioned, banked, underbanked, and what was the third?
Unbanked.
Unbanked. Yeah. What are the current numbers for Pakistanis?
Well, there is no accurate number because it's not a published number, but still we are around 20-25% banked population. So still a large population which remains unbanked.
And that's, in my understanding, is one of the lowest in South Asia.
Yes.
And also one of the lowest in the world.
It is.
In some cases, even African countries are actually more progressive with M-Pesa and stuff like that happening.
They are much more progressive than us.
So why do you think ye ho nahi saka? Because what you're telling me, I mean, मुझे मोटा मैक्रो पे तो बड़ा पता था, but the way that you're telling me कि 2008 में progressive regulation भी आ गई है, banks भी कह रहे हैं कि अच्छा जी we want to go branchless, and again it makes sense also because the cost of opening a bank account with a branch is just exponentially higher, right? Because और उसमें यही होता है कि जनरली पाकिस्तान में फिर वो बैंक्स क्या करते होते थे कि वो देखते थे कि यार ये सूट वाले साहब हैं, इनका अकाउंट खोल दो, ये तो किसी का ड्राइवर लग रहा है, इसके कितने ही पैसे आएंगे, तो उसको 10 पखें लगा के स्टेट बैंक की 4 रेगुलेशन का नाम लगा के साइड पे कर दो. एंड दैट यूज्ड टू हैपन, टू बी वेरी, इट स्टिल हैपन्स. यू गो टू अ ब्रांच एंड इट्स हॉरिफाइंग. वुमेन, यंग स्टूडेंट्स और जो आपकी ब्लू कॉलर वर्कर्स हैं उनको बैंकिंग करना बड़ा मुश्किल हो जाता है. But then you have branchless banking that seemingly would have simplified a lot of that and could have made that easier. Then you got these sort of digital wallets. Even आज हम सुनते हैं कि there's so many players, Sada Pay, Naya Pay, and Easy Paisa and Jazz Cash, but that financial inclusion just hasn't happened on the level that we have seen a lot of other developing markets. आप ये भी नहीं कह सकते कि यार एजुकेशन का प्रॉब्लम है, आप ये भी नहीं कह सकते कि इकोनॉमी शायद इतनी एडवांस्ड नहीं है, इतनी वो नहीं है, इवॉल्व नहीं है, बिकॉज देयर आर अदर एग्जांपल्स within the region who've been able to do it. Why do you think Pakistan has failed in that aspect?
So one thing I would like to add, we have very high tele density and even higher usage of internet. So it's not technology at all. Let me ask you a question. Can I?
Yeah, go for it.
When did you open your first account?
I opened my first account when I was 19.
Why did you open it?
To be very honest, if my father wasn't a banker, I wouldn't have opened it. I wouldn't even have known about bank
Still,
accounts.
why did you open it?
I opened it at the time because I had I'd just gone to Karachi for university and money had to be moved.
That's your answer.
Yeah.
There was a need, right? You opened an account only when you needed it.
Right.
Everybody does that. Account is not a hobby.
Right.
Nobody goes, चलो आज अच्छा दिन है, चलो account खुलवाते हैं. Nobody does that. Right. Account लोग खुलवाते हैं because या तो उनकी उसकी सैलरी आनी होती है, या अगर वो बिजनेसमैन है उनको पेमेंट्स करनी होती हैं, उनको लोन चाहिए होता है उसके लिए. There are different reasons people open accounts for. We haven't created those use cases, frankly. This was one of the reasons for me to decide that payments could be that use case, right? For people to actually get into accounts. I still believe this is not a use case enough, right? But this is one. Loans is another, right? Payments are a means to loans, right? Because while you're doing payments, your data gets documented.
Like basically credit scoring wala.
Digitized.
Yeah.
You can get access to loans then, right? So I think this works hand in hand. And unless you create that reason for people to open accounts, you would always find the same people opening wallets as well. They would have bank accounts. They would open wallets.
Yeah.
Because they like the way the wallets operate, the experience and everything. But is it to penetrate down into the market, or is it to create a better life experience? These are two different things.
And so that's where I would like to figure out the switch to Paymob. How did that happen? What was the thought process there? Because you've been in these sort of legacy businesses. These are big. Again, I'll come back to the man in the suit, right? The success की पाकिस्तान का थप्पा of success, बड़ा इदारा, अच्छा सूट, बेहतरीन title. Going from there to seemingly a startup, and being the first employee there, if I understand this correctly, right? That's at an age where you're really just, अब आपका वो वाला टाइम है कि आपने कहा है कि यार मैं अब एग्जीक्यूटिव पोजीशन में जाऊँ, अच्छा सा मेरा कमरा हो, साथ एक बाहर सेक्रेटरी हो और सुकून से मेरी ज़िंदगी गुजरे. That's not an easy decision. You know, कहाँ से आई वो opportunity and why did you choose it?
Well, the opportunity came while I was working at NiFT. So at NiFT, we had actually set up a payment gateway. I was there after my consulting assignment for around 3.5 years. NiFT was again a great opportunity because it was greenfield. One, it was a huge infrastructure within the banking system.
Right.
So NiFT does check clearing for the entire number of banks in Pakistan.
Right.
Right? And it's connected to all the banks, but nobody knows about NiFT because it's always at the back end.
And what were you guys doing there? Digitizing the check clearing system?
No, it does check clearing for the last 25 years.
Right.
Right? Which is a manual process of picking up checks from the branches, scanning them, sending those checks to the issuer bank, they approving it, the money movement to the beneficiary bank through state bank, all of that. So it manages all that. It's a very operationally extensive activity.
Right.
Right. When I got there, so NiFT was actually wanting to do something in the digital space.
Right.
Having that muscle and having that connectivity with the banks, it wanted to actually utilize that for its advantage. So I got this offer from NiFT while I was doing consulting, but I wanted to complete that consulting assignment. Thankfully, they waited for me for around 5 months. And then when I joined there, we did a complete strategy on account-based payments. This was the first time that instead of card, you can use your account to pay digitally.
Acha.
Right? So you can go onto a website, select NiFT Pay as a checkout. Instead of putting your card, you can put your account number in CNIC, get an OTP, enter that, and your payment is deducted.
Acha.
Yeah. So this was something creating absolutely new for me. Right? That was something that I did. And then while I was at NiFT, Paymob approached me. They wanted that they were coming to Pakistan, and we want to lead. We want you to lead.
नहीं, so again जब आपको ऑफर आई है, आपने ज़ाहिर अपना एक वो ड्यू डिलिजेंस की होगी कि यार ये कौन है, क्या कर रहे हैं. किसी भी इदारे में आप जब भी गए हैं तो एक सिस्टम सेट था. देयर इज़ वैल्यू दैट यू कैन ऐड एब्सोल्युटली, एंड बट देयर इज़ अ सिस्टम, एंड उस सिस्टम को आप स्टडी करके उसको ऐड ऑन कर सकते हैं. हेयर इट्स वेरी डिफरेंट. You're supposed to set up the system while adding all the value that you're going to add. Did that worry you at all?
Not at all. So when I did my sort of research on Paymob, I realized two things. One thing which was like I said, one thing that I realized very early when we did MCB Lite, that if you don't distribute a product well, nobody is going to know about it. Doesn't matter how good your product is, right? The second thing is, how agile are you in order to adapt and change yourself according to the needs of the market? These are the two things that I discovered about Paymob based on the journey that they have had. So it was probably that confidence in what Paymob has done that didn't really scare me.
Tell me about Paymob. How did it start? I believe it's an Egyptian company.
Yes, it is. It's an interesting story. So Islam Shoki, who's our founder and CEO, he, Alain, and Mustafa Menesi, three were in Cairo University. And they wanted to actually go into an e-commerce business. That's how this started. And they approached a bank for a payment gateway. और बैंक ने उनको एक बुक पकड़ा दी इंटीग्रेशन गाइड के तौर पे, और काफ़ी सारे पैसे भी मांगे एज अ लाइसेंस कॉस्ट. तो इन्होंने ये डिसाइड किया कि असल प्रॉब्लम तो यहाँ है. There are so many e-commerce players, but still we are struggling to get a payment gateway. So why not do this? That's how they started off as a fresh college graduates who wanted to do something new, right? So they set up their company. They established a platform. They called it Paymob, and the rest is history.
And when did they start? 2015?
2015, yes.
Were exclusively in Egypt in the first few years?
Yes, Pakistan is the first country that they expanded to.
Achha.
So they were firstly mostly an online payment gateway. And like I said, very quickly got the understanding that until and unless we resolve all the issues into payments, we are not going to be where we want to be. Which is the largest payment provider in the MENAP region, right? So then they started to diversify into point of sale transactions, other channels, creating those opportunities for merchants to digitize themselves. So overall, they have gone through that journey in the last 7 years. We started off in Pakistan as the second deployment this year. And very recently, last month, we have launched in UAE as well.
Interesting. Tell me about the products. So for an average consumer, जो कि सुन रहा है, उसके लिए क्या ऐसी, like what are the touch points that he maybe be able to see you? What do you offer really?
Okay, sure. So we I would like to, for the purpose of understanding, divided into two markets, online and offline.
Okay.
Offline market is wherever you talk about digitizing a brick and mortar experience, right? So it could be a large retail store, it could be a mom and pop shop, it could be anything where payment needs to be digitized. And it's in a proximity setting. Right? दूसरा जो आपके पास एलिमेंट है वो है ऑनलाइन. ऑनलाइन के अगेन अंदर बहुत सारे एलिमेंट्स हैं. आपके पास अब सोशल कॉमर्स है, आपके पास ई कॉमर्स वेबसाइट्स हैं, आपके पास apps हैं through which you can shop. So all of those, so the product suite that we have digitizes payments for everyone. Any business who needs to collect or make payments, we provide them a solution.
Okay. Let's talk about the online one first.
Yeah.
What's the solution? I mean, what do you provide? Because banks bhi hain, theoretically that solution already exists on some level.
Yeah.
Albeit bada, मैं example दूंगा, नाम नहीं लूँगा brand का, but you know, we had an e-commerce setup and we reached out to two players, one exclusively online और online से ज़्यादा जो post modern नए वाले हैं, and one bank. और वो exactly जो आपने बोला ना, वो exactly यही problem था कि उन्होंने कहा जी ठीक है कर लें आप. मैंने कहा ज़बरदस्त, कैसे करें? उसके बाद कोई रिप्लाई नहीं आया. और फिर हमने मार्केट से पूछा तो मार्केट ने बोला कि यार वो कोई जानने वाला अगर होगा ना उधर तो उसको बोलना, तो वहाँ पर कोई उनके कोई बंदा होगा तो शायद वो आके तुम्हारा सेटअप कर दे. एंड obviously like I'm just like somewhere down the line you begin to feel sort of gaslighted and feel guilty as well कि यार I'm so stupid, I don't know about this, I should be like, मैं तो कंप्यूटर साइंस का ग्रेजुएट हूँ, मुझे पता होना चाहिए कि इसकी API किस तरह काम करती है. Then I thought about it and I was like यार no, like if I'm a businessman, and it was my wife's sort of e-commerce planner business, and I was like, she's a businesswoman, she doesn't need to have the technical understanding of कि यार ये पूरा वो है, and modern दुनिया के अंदर she doesn't require to have like a technology की team जो कि बैठ के पूरा का पूरा integrate करके दे so that 3% of her sales can start getting digitized. You know, it's at the start,
absolutely.
It needs to be very, very fluent ताकि आप फिर eventually उसमें figure out करो. आपका काम जाना चाहिए कि यार what are some of the interesting sales that you can offer, what are the business decisions that you can make to ensure कि digital payments मेरी बढ़े. But अगर ये सारी energy चली गई है सिर्फ integration में, तो this is fairly stupid. And then one, I went to a legacy bank, and legacy bank I'm not even gonna start like that. So when some Paymob came in, तो वो मेरे लिए बड़ा एक इंटरेस्टिंग था कि अच्छा this is a player जो कि एक्सक्लूसिवली फोकस इस पे कर रहा है. उनका ये फोकस नहीं है कि यार वॉलेट में तुम्हारे कितने पैसे हैं, तुम सेविंग्स अकाउंट खोल दो ताकि मैं बैंक को, मैं गवर्नमेंट को पैसे दे दूँ, एंड दैट्स वेयर देयर मनी इज दैट दे आर नॉट रियली इंटरेस्टेड इन दिस. इनका काम ही ये होगा. सो टेल मी अबाउट द ऑनलाइन, व्हाट्स द, हाउ डज दैट वर्क? एंड फॉर एन एवरेज कंज्यूमर, लेट्स से I have a e-commerce website. मेरे लिए पेमॉब किस तरह काम करेगा?
Sure. So the first thing I would like to define is we are an omni-channel platform.
Okay, what does that mean?
That means that whatever channels you have, so it is absolutely possible that you're a hybrid as well, right? So you have an online presence and you have brick and mortar as well.
Right.
So if we onboard you, we enable you on all your channels.
Right.
Right. Firstly, हम online की बात कर लेते हैं. Online में, of course, depending on, like you said, the need of your customer, you should be able to provide your services, right? Whether it is plugins through which the merchant integrates. Now, plugins is a simple integration, right? It's a plug and play. And in today's world, people don't make custom websites. They go on Shopify and create an e-commerce store.
WordPress हो जाएगा, Magento हो जाएगा.
ठीक है, तो आपको उनको simply उस जो भी जिस प्लेटफॉर्म पे वो हैं उसका plug in provide करना है. They embed it and they start accepting payments, right? अगर कोई मोबाइल ऐप है तो आपने उसको एक SDK देनी है which they can embed into their mobile app. अगर कोई रीडायरेक्ट मेथड पे वेबसाइट पे चाहता है, अपनी उसी कस्टम बिल्ड वेबसाइट है, तो आपने उसको एक रीडायरेक्ट मेथड पे या अपने होस्टेड चेकआउट के. सो द इंटीग्रेशन इज एज पर द कस्टमर्स रिक्वायरमेंट, राइट? Integration has to be very simple because this is what most of the e-businesses shy away from, right? But the reason for that is it's so cumbersome to integrate that they say okay fine, cash on delivery अच्छा है यार, आ जाते हैं,
ज़िंदगी आसान है. मैं आपसे एक सवाल करता हूँ. इमेजिन आई एम अ 19-year-old यूनिवर्सिटी स्टूडेंट जिसने निफ्टी सा हूँ थोड़ा सा, तो मैंने जाके जो है जी आई डोंट नो, मेरे वालिद साहब की कपड़े की दुकान थी, मैंने कोविड के टाइम के ऊपर उसको ऑनलाइन फेसबुक पे बेचना शुरू कर दिया. फिर मैंने एक वेबसाइट बना ली और अब मेरा एक अच्छा टर्न अराउंड आ रहा है, महीने की 4-5 लाख रुपए की सेल हो जाती है. उसके ऊपर मैं 1-1.25 लाख रुपया प्रॉफिट भी कमा लेता हूँ. Do you think I will be able to, in a fluent way, integrate Paymob?
Absolutely. So we allow our users to create their profile online. They go on our website. They don't have to do anything. Create their user ID, password, and they get into our dashboard.
ठीक है.
On that dashboard, they have everything. They have the means to integrate with our sandbox environment. They have all the knowledge that they need. We have documents there which they can read if they want. It's once only they have already integrated with us, they need to contact us to take them live.
ठीक है. Integration से क्या मुराद है? So for example,
download a plugin if it is on Shopify. Download a plugin, install that plugin, test it out with the test credentials that are available to them on that dashboard.
ठीक है.
Once they have tested, just let us know that they want to go live.
And all of this is happening without any, अभी गेट कीपिंग कोई भी नहीं हुई भी, वो गुस्सा है, उसने अकाउंट बना लिया, बन गया, उसने इंटीग्रेशन वगैरह करनी हो गई. उसको अभी कोई वो नहीं देना पड़ा कि एम्प्लॉयमेंट लेटर ला के दो, अब्बू का बर्थ सर्टिफिकेट ला के दो. वो कुछ भी नहीं हुआ.
That's for going live, yes.
अब जाकर तो मैंने बेसिक सारा का सारा कर लिया. अब मैंने अच्छा, और माई अंडरस्टैंडिंग इज दैट यू गाइज आर समवेयर इन द मिडल. जो कैश या जो पैसा आ रहा है वो किसी और अकाउंट या वॉलेट से कस्टमर का आ रहा है या डेबिट कार्ड से कस्टमर का आ रहा है, और वो जा किसी और अकाउंट वॉलेट जिसमें जो कि बिजनेसमैन है उसने एक प्रोवाइड कर दिया कि यार जब आपके पास पेमेंट आ जाएगी तो आपने इस अकाउंट में रीड आउट करनी है. ऐसा ही है?
बिल्कुल ऐसा ही.
अच्छा, उसके बाद फिर मैंने आपको रीच आउट किया, मैंने कहा जी मुझे लाइव जाना है. तो व्हाट्स द स्टेप फॉर दैट?
So now when this customer approaches us, generally there is a lead generated.
ठीक है.
Based on the type of customer, if it is like an SME, our team will contact him. We have a SME sales team, we have an enterprise sales team, we have a POS sales. So we have a structure which actually embodies the organization's will to digitize, right? So अगर वो SME है तो SME की टीम उसको कांटेक्ट करेगी, उसको हैंड होल्ड करेगी, ठीक है, उससे डॉक्यूमेंट्स कलेक्ट करेगी,
ठीक है,
और उसको लाइव ले जाएगी.
और इसमें जो डॉक्यूमेंटेशन है, इज देयर एनी रेगुलेशन रिक्वायरमेंट?
So the regulator has given guidelines.
ठीक है.
Abhi more recently, State Bank has given some certain guidelines on digital merchant onboarding.
ठीक है.
So what that also helps is a complete digital onboarding experience for the merchant.
So डॉक्यूमेंट सारी ऑनलाइन ही अपलोड हो जाएंगी?
ऑनलाइन ही अपलोड हो जाते हैं. डिपेंडिंग ऑन द मर्चेंट्स ट्रांजैक्शनल नीड्स, उसकी डिफरेंट लिमिट्स हो सकती हैं, डिफरेंट रिक्वायरमेंट्स हो सकती हैं. सो येस, देयर इज़ अ गाइडलाइन जो कि बैंक्स और जो भी प्लेयर्स हैं वो फॉलो करते हैं फॉर ऑनबोर्डिंग दीज मर्चेंट्स. बट लाइक आई सेड, इट्स अ सिंपल ग्रेजुएशन प्रोसेस.
और डॉक्यूमेंट्स किस तरह की हैं?
Documents depends on your business. If you are a private limited company, it would be different.
मैं छोटा सा
company,
मैं
sole proprietor,
प्राइवेट लिमिटेड वाले लेवल पे जो खेल रहा है ना, उसके पास वो टीम ही पूरी है जो कि कर लेगी. वो मुश्किल वाला भी कर लेगी अगर उसे करना हो. मेरे लिए सबसे बड़ा जो इंटरेस्ट है वो है छोटा सोल प्रोप्राइटर, यू नो, यंग किड, नॉट जस्ट यंग किड, लाइक यंग बिजनेस, जो कि पाकिस्तान का बहुत बड़ा जीडीपी का हिस्सा है, यू नो, जिसको कभी किसी ने सपोर्ट नहीं किया. लाइक आई सेड, मैंने पर्सोना बिल्ड कर दिया ऑफ ए यंग 19-year-old किड जिसका बिजनेस चल रहा है, 5 लाख रुपए की उसकी सेल्स आ रही हैं. उसने अब लाइव जाना है, उसको क्या डॉक्यूमेंट्स देनी पड़ेंगी?
His CNIC and an account certificate.
That's it?
That's it.
Acha, interesting.
Because he falls under a sole proprietorship category, right?
Yeah.
He's not a registered business. We do want customers to register for NTN as well, right? Because that is important to file taxes, and that is probably a social responsibility that we have to guide people towards the tax regime.
But it's not a hard look at this point.
No, it's not. Because otherwise you will not be able to digitize.
Makes sense. So ये आपका हो गया ऑनलाइन वाला. और ऑनलाइन में मेरा एक लास्ट सवाल आपसे ये होगा, how do you, although I mean you're the middleman, so there's no liability theoretically, but on what level is there a fraud detection mechanism? क्योंकि ये एक बड़ा रियल प्रॉब्लम है और होगा आने वाले वक्त में, राइट? कि पाकिस्तान का सबसे बड़ा मसला ही है कि ease of doing business is difficult, and the minute you begin to talk about it should be very plug and play. The easier it is, the more the fraud always goes up. And it's not just, I think in Pakistan, I think a lot of the newer markets that are developed, वो हमेशा fraud होता है. Even Amazon had an incredible amount of frauds when they started digitizing. और फिर उसके ऊपर ज़ाहिर है mechanisms आप you put into place कि कोई बंदा जो है वो basically फेक, वो ये उसने रजिस्टर कर लिया, वो आया, उसने आके डिजिटल मार्केटिंग के थ्रू प्रोडक्ट्स को मार्केट करके पैसा मूव करवा दिया. एज सुन एज द मनी इज मूव्ड, बिजनेस क्लोज, डन, यू नो, वी मूव्ड ऑन. सो हाउ डू यू इंश्योर दैट फ्रॉड इज mitigated in this?
Okay, so there are two kinds of frauds. One is a merchant fraud and one is a customer fraud.
Yeah,
right.
You're
right now talking about a merchant fraud.
Right.
देखिए, जब हम एक मर्चेंट से डॉक्यूमेंट्स लेते हैं तो देन वी डू अ ड्यू डिलिजेंस. वी अंडरस्टैंड व्हाट सॉर्ट ऑफ बिजनेस इट इज़ इन. उसकी वेबसाइट को सर्व करते हैं, जो उसकी, अगर फॉर इंस्टेंस इफ इट इज़ सोशल कॉमर्स तो ये देखते हैं कितने अरसे से है. वी हैव अ टीम एट द बैक एंड before taking it live. Before taking it live, they assess if it is a legit business.
Right.
Even after we take him live, we keep monitoring the transactions that he is doing, the type of transactions. उसने फर्स्ट करो, उसने ये बताया कि मेरा बिजनेस है पाकिस्तान के अंदर और उसकी ट्रांजैक्शंस यूएस से आ रही हैं, यूएस कार्ड से आ रही हैं. बिकॉज पाकिस्तान के अंदर कस्टमर फ्रॉड्स कम इसलिए हो गए हैं, इसलिए कि रेगुलेटर ने एक अच्छा काम ये किया था कि इन्होंने एक होता है 3D सिक्योरिटी, 3 डायमेंशनल सिक्योरिटी, उसको मैंडेट कर दिया था. यूएस के अंदर भी बहुत सारे कार्ड्स 2 डायमेंशनल सिक्योरिटी पे चल रहे हैं, मतलब इट्स 2DS.
राइट.
और उसकी वजह से वहाँ पे OTP नहीं आता, ट्रांजैक्शन थ्रू हो जाती है. तो अगर आपके पास कार्ड नंबर और उसके पीछे CVV है, यू मस्ट हैव वॉच्ड ऑल दोस ड्रामास. अगर आपने आपके पास है तो यू कैन जस्ट चार्ज द कार्ड, राइट, इफ़ यू हैव दोस क्रेडेंशियल्स. सो मॉनिटरिंग is a continuous process. You keep on monitoring those merchants. Even after you have onboarded them through a secured process where you have assessed them as a business, you also assess the type of transactions happening on this, the level of customer complaints coming on this, so that you can deplug any merchant if they even go the initial screening.
Right. Again, just to confirm, you're the one moving the money, you're not the one providing the money, or I'm assuming MasterCard and Visas and those people are basically, or the banks are managing that.
Yeah, so we have a very strategic partnership with Bank Alfalah right now. They are our acquiring partners. The money movement happens through them. As whatever we do, we have an arrangement with them to move those funds. Of course, पीछे मास्टर वीजा कार्ड जो स्कीम्स हैं वो हैं, तो बिल्कुल ऐसे ही होता है.
Who's verifying and approving the transactions?
The customer.
नहीं, मतलब फॉर एग्जांपल कस्टमर, आपका एक फ्रंट पेज आ गया वेबसाइट के ऊपर, मैं गया, मैंने कहा जी मैंने ये टोपी खरीदनी है, खरीद ली, क्लिक कर दिया, ऐड टू कार्ट, चेकआउट पे गया, पेमॉब का इंटरफेस आ गया,
बिल्कुल ऐसे.
वहाँ पे मैंने अपनी चॉइस ऑफ चैनल पे जाके मैंने कहा कि यार अच्छा मुझे लेट्स से डेबिट कार्ड से करना है या मुझे मोबाइल ऐप के थ्रू ट्रांसफ़र करना है, जो भी
मैंने वॉलेट से पे करना है, मैंने अकाउंट से पे करना है. बिकॉज ओमनी चैनल का एक और फ़ायदा ये है कि यू हैव मल्टीपल इंस्ट्रूमेंट्स अटैच्ड टू इट, राइट? सो यू कैन पे थ्रू एनी वन ऑफ देम. सो वंस यू क्लिक ऑन एनी ऑफ दीज एंड यू एंटर योर credentials are taken to your bank.
ठीक है,
राइट?
और वो वेरीफाई करता है रियल टाइम पे.
वो बैंक सिर्फ वेरीफाई नहीं करता, वो आपसे भी वेरीफाई करता है. इन मोस्ट केसेस यू रिसीव एन OTP which you enter, and then the transaction gets authorized. So at the end it's the customer giving an authorization for the transaction.
Right. ठीक है. सो जो दरमियान की रिक्वायरमेंट है ऑफ अ प्लेयर जो कि बैठ के उसके अकाउंट में देख रहा है पैसे हैं कि नहीं उसके अकाउंट में, वो सारा का सारा मिटिगेट हो जाता है, एंड इट्स बेसिकली
completely digital, right? So उसके अकाउंट में पैसे हैं नहीं हैं, ये भी डिजिटली चेक होता है. अकाउंट ब्लॉक तो नहीं है, किसी किस्म का कोई कंस्ट्रेंट तो नहीं है अकाउंट के ऊपर, डोरमेंट नहीं हुआ, एवरीथिंग इज चेक्ड within 15 seconds, 20 seconds, and you get a response.
And how long does it take for the vendor to be able to receive that payment from you guys?
Okay, so it takes around, for card payments, it takes around 48 hours. For the account-based, wallet-based other payments, it's the next day.
अच्छा.
Yeah.
So वो सारा जो भी पिछले दिन की ट्रांजेक्शन है वो सारी फाइनल हुई हैं और वो अगले दिन ट्रांसफ़र हो जाएंगी उसको.
Yes.
Is that the industry norm? Because my understanding is कि this was, और मैं इसमें एक मारूफ राइड हेलिंग कंपनी का मेंशन करना चाहूँगा, जिस पे सुनने में ये आ रहा था कि उनकी क्रेडिट्स के पैसे जो हैं वो, अगर आपने कभी ट्रैवल किया हो तो जो आपकी ये कैप्टन होते हैं ये कहते हैं जी हमें क्रेडिट पे नहीं चाहिए, क्रेडिट कार्ड पे नहीं चाहिए. और फिर व्हेन आई रियली गॉट इनटू इट, टू द बॉटम ऑफ इट, आई फाउंड आउट कि उनको इन सम केसेस मिनिमम 15 days, मैक्सिमम 30 days लगते थे टू ट्रांसफ़र ऑल ऑफ दैट कैश. एंड ऑब्वियसली फॉर समवन जिसका सुबह शाम का धंधा चल रहा है, उसके लिए इट्स क्लोज टू इम्पॉसिबल कि वो उसको सर्वाइव कर सके, पर्टिकुलरली इन सच हाई इन्फ्लेशन. एंड सो आई वॉज फेयरली सरप्राइज कि इन द डिजिटल वर्ल्ड 15 दिन लीड टाइम मेक्स नो सेंस टू मी.
Yeah.
Do you think that's something जो कि इंडस्ट्री में already हो रहा था? Is that something new that you guys are doing?
Well, we have tried to squeeze these times. The industry was already trying to do this for a while. It has commercial aspects to it, right? So if you're keeping somebody's money, you are earning float on it.
Right.
The bank is earning float on it. And then you can actually subsidize the other costs. So it's a commercial model, what you go with, right? We have tried to keep the best for both the things, giving him commercials which is acceptable, yet not keeping his money with us, right? Our objective is not to hold the money. Our objective is to actually get the money to the merchant as early as possible, and therefore the instant transfers.
So all of this is great. How do you make any money?
Okay, so it's a very simple model. The business that we provide the services to, we charge them. We charge them per transaction charge, and that's it.
Acha, and that per transaction charge essentially is being divided on to multiple players. मतलब
Yes.
जिसने वेरीफाई किया या मास्टर कार्ड है, बैंक है जिसने वो किया, वो हर किसी के पास एक परसेंटेज जा रही होती है.
बिल्कुल ऐसे ही है. So this is normally known in the market as the merchant discount rate.
Okay.
Right. So let's say you do a transaction of 1,000 rupees, and these are hypothetical numbers, all of them. And the merchant has received a merchant discount rate of 2%, let's say, right? 20 rupees is the charge that the merchant would pay, right? That means the amount would be discounted to 990 rupees, and that's what the merchant would receive. I'm just ignoring the taxes right now in this, right? In the entire calculation. These 20 rupees will be divided with the payment provider like us, the acquiring bank, the scheme, which is Master or Visa card or PayPal or Union Pay, whatever scheme it is, and at the back end with the issuer bank of that customer as well. So everybody gets some revenue from these 20 rupees.
Okay, so there's an incentive for every single stakeholder within the sort of ecosystem.
Absolutely.
To be able to make money.
Otherwise it won't work.
अगर मैं कहता हूँ कि easy पैसा से for example हो रहा है, तो in that case या कोई mobile wallet से हो रहा है, तो in that case it's basically you guys and the mobile wallet and the receiving bank.
Yes, generally yes.
Scheme नहीं होगी obviously, तो वो में से minus हो जाएगा. ठीक है. Okay, so I'll switch now to the physical aspect of things, because I think that's really the harder nut to crack for you guys, for anyone in Pakistan, because nobody has been able to do it historically. पहले तो मुझे बताइएगा what is that service? What do you provide to your average, again मैं उसमें persona build करूँगा of a Karyana store, a good Karyana store, active one, but a Karyana store nonetheless, because they're not very active in terms of their digitization or their bar coding. जैसे इस्लामाबाद में डी वॉटसन से आप एक्सपेक्ट कर सकते हो कि वो हर चीज़ करके बैठा हुआ होगा. बट अगर आप फॉर एग्जांपल हर सेक्टर का सब सेक्टर के एक पीछे एक छोटी मार्केट होती है जहाँ पे आप जाके वहाँ से चीज़ें लेकर आ सकते हो जैसे वो ख़त्म होती हैं. उस दुकान का बड़ा हाई कन्वर्जन होती है इन टर्म्स ऑफ रेवेन्यू, बट वो बस सारा दिमाग पे चल रहा होता है. उसको पता होता है वो उस शेल्फ पे जो चाय पड़ी हुई है उसको पता है उसकी क्या प्राइस है, उसने कोई बार कोड नहीं लगाया हुआ, उसकी टोटल नंबर जो है वो एक किताब में हो रही हैं. So what's the utility for him to come to you?
Okay, a couple of things here. Firstly, let's understand the market, right? On the offline side. So market के अंदर आज जो पेमेंट मेथड है प्रेवलेंट वो कार्ड है. ठीक है, जो कि पॉइंट ऑफ सेल मशीन्स जो कि आपने काउंटर्स पे लगी हुई देखी होंगी जिसके अंदर आप कार्ड डिप करते हैं और फिर पिन डालते हैं, वो ज़्यादातर वहाँ पे चार्ज होता है. A machine has a cost attached to it, right? Which is approximately, let's say, $200, right? So whenever anybody installs a machine at a retailer, they firstly decide that if it is going to make profit from him from the transactions that are done on this machine, तो सबसे पहले ये assess करता है कि कितनी transactions करेगा, उसमें कितना turnover होगा, और उसमें से मैं अपने $200 कब तक रिकवर करूँगा, right? The thing is that has limited the investment into this market. अच्छा, इसके पीछे थोड़ी सी स्टोरी है. अगर मैं 2020 से पहले जाऊँ तो 2020 से पहले इसकी प्राइसिंग रेगुलेटेड नहीं थी. So the acquiring business, which is the post deployment business, was mainly a loss-making business for the banks also, right? Because they were issuing plastics, cards issue karte the, accounts issue karte the. Acquiring was more of an investment for them. It wasn't a revenue line. There was revenue, but it wasn't it was not profitable. तो उसकी वजह से हुआ ये कि पाकिस्तान में आज तक we have 96,000 point of sale machines which are deployed over 34,000 merchants approximately, right? क्योंकि एक मर्चेंट के ऊपर मल्टीपल मशीन्स भी लगी हुई होती हैं. तो
अगर मैं परसेंटेज की बात करूं, डू यू हैव अ नंबर कि एक्चुअली टोटल मार्केट साइज क्या है और उसके कितने परसेंट?
वी डोंट हैव अ टोटल मार्केट साइज. सो अगर अपने SME सेगमेंट को देख लें तो यू विल फाइंड डिफरेंट नंबर्स, राइट. सो यू विल फाइंड 5 मिलियन SMEs हैं पाकिस्तान में, कोई कहेगा 7 मिलियन SMEs है, कोई मतलब, बट बाय ऑल एस्टिमेट्स दे आर मोर देन 5 मिलियन.
Okay, so if you
Right.
take 5 million as a base case, and 10% of that is what? 5 lakh.
5 लाख.
1% of the 50,000, so less than 2%. Actually, less than 1% merchants actually are. Wow, that's mind-numbing. ठीक है.
अच्छा, इसके अगेंस्ट में एक और नंबर बता देता हूँ.
ठीक है.
ईरान,
Right.
right? 80 million population. Guess how many POS?
And this is a by the way a regime जो कि sanction में पड़ी है, disconnected from the world. But I
Take
can't.
a wild guess.
कितना बोला? 8 million बोला आपने?
मैंने बोला 80 million की population
है.
We are at 220 million population as per our last census.
ठीक है. 80 million के हिसाब से मैं कहूँगा I don't know 1 million.
8 million POS machines. Right? So for every 10 people
There is a POS
machine.
Yeah. Wow.
Right? So
and they've been able to build that ecosystem really ground up within internally, because unka to banking is also disconnected from the world as well.
Yes.
My understanding is correct. So then why has this been the case? I mean, you आपने 2020 से पहले बोला कि वो रेगुलेशन नहीं थी. रेगुलेशन ने आके क्या किया? पहला
रेगुलेशन ने आके सबसे पहले तो ये किया कि जो डिविजन था उसको एक्वायरर के फेवर में चेंज किया. और मैंने जो बताया ना, MDR का जो डिवीजन है उसको एक्वायरर के फेवर में चेंज किया.
ठीक है.
उन्होंने इशूअर्स का इंटरचेंज को लॉक कर दिया कि इससे ज़्यादा नहीं हो सकता.
ठीक है.
और फिर उन्होंने कहा एक्वायरर का MDR इससे कम नहीं हो सकता, बिकॉज प्राइस वॉर्स ऑल्सो किल योर प्रॉफिट मार्जिन.
Right.
So that is created that space, and since 2020 you might have seen a lot of new banks coming into the acquiring business because this space was created.
Yeah.
So I think a very smart move by the regulators. Of course there were industry people who got involved in order to get that done, and it actually has made an impact where market has become more responsive to the acquiring business.
और इससे पहले जब एक फॉर एग्जांपल मुझे अगर चाहिए होती थी मशीन, तो मैं उस मशीन के $200 पे करता था या मुझे मुफ्त की मिलती थी?
डिफरेंट मॉडल्स हैं मार्केट के अंदर. देयर आर मेजॉरिटी जो है वो फ्री में ही देती है, दे डोंट चार्ज, बट वो मिलना बड़ा मुश्किल है.
अच्छा, व्हाई?
बिकॉज लाइक आई सेड देयर इज एन ROI दैट हैज, सो एवरीबडी इज इन्वेस्टिंग. जो मैंने एक शुरू में बात की थी, a limited amount of money on the digital. They would want to maximize profits of it. Right. So what they would do is always have the machine at the higher end retailers, because it's going to have a more lucrative return. Right. So जो low end retailer है जिसकी आप बात कर रहे हैं, उस तक POS machine पहुंचती नहीं है. So it's not it is not a choice that he's making not to put a POS machine. He cannot get one. Right? Because he does not clock that much traffic for the POS machine to get profitable for the acquirer providing it to him.
How does one solve that problem?
Well, we are bringing in a technology for softpos. What that does is, so you must have seen recently in Pakistan the tap on the POS transaction, right? So you have an NFC chip on each of your plastics, and you go and you just tap it on the POS because it's a tap machine, it's enabled, and the transaction goes through. Right. If it is a transaction over 3,000, then you have to enter your PIN as well. For a mobile phone to be converted into a POS, it just needs an NFC enablement, right? So if your phone is an NFC smartphone, we have an app, a technology to convert it into a POS device.
Oh, interesting.
Right? So you can accept card payments through tap on your phone without having to invest into a
POS machine.
POS machine.
सही है. So आपने कहा barrier to entry was a POS machine. and that's how you solve it. What can you tell me a little bit about, मतलब मुझे नहीं पता कि पाकिस्तान में मोबाइल फ़ोन्स जो आ रहे हैं वो NFC enabled होते हैं नहीं होते, किस तरह के होते हैं, आप लोगों ने शायद रिसर्च की भी हो.
Yeah. So most of the new phones are NFC enabled. What we have done are, for instance, जो नए mobiles आ रहे हैं इसमें 80% NFC enabled है.
अच्छा.
Any phone above 10,000 to 15,000 rupees has NFC enabled.
अच्छा. And so that was, oh, interesting. So इस case में क्या होगा कि either the shopkeeper already has a smartphone, or you give him a list of कि यार, you know, you make that investment. This is not कि आप एक machine पे invest करो. This is आपने ज़िंदगी में फ़ोन तो लेना ही है. So you make that investment, but make sure कि वो इस boundary, इस range में आए, ये वाले phones हों, and you can use our product essentially.
Absolutely. And
so the buy-in then goes to the customer rather than coming to you and hitting your bottom line.
And the customer can even take it on installments, right? So now there are entities who are basically giving phones on installments.
Yeah.
So it's easier to acquire a phone, right? It's not that difficult anymore in the market.
And in that case, it doesn't matter कि मैं महीने की 50 रुपए की सेल करता हूँ या 5 लाख रुपए की सेल करता हूँ, आपको तो हिट पड़ ही नहीं रही. As long as I have a legitimate business, जो कि वो चल रहा है, तो अगर मुझे initially demand create करनी है, मुझे वो साइन लगाना है कि यार we are now taking digital payments as well, and first 3 months से मुझे कोई सेल नहीं आती, तो आपको हिट नहीं पड़ रही.
Absolutely.
और आहिस्ता आहिस्ता वहाँ पे जो मेरे दिन का 100 कस्टमर आता था उसमें से शायद कोई एक कस्टमर करना शुरू कर दे, फिर 2 करना शुरू कर दे, एंड एज द इकोसिस्टम डेवलप्स इवेंचुअली वो डिजिटाइज हो जाएगा.
Absolutely.
Do you think this can begin to reach to peripheries as well beyond KLI?
Absolutely. So another advantage of a softpos is that there is no human interaction required. Just like I enable someone on online channel, this becomes an online channel. Because so it's an interesting mix of online and offline, right? Because a customer can actually download an app through Google Play or any online store and configure it, apply on it. Once we approve, can start accepting payments. So even my sales rep doesn't need to go there in tier 2, tier 3 cities to enable this merchant.
Yeah. Are you guys live right now?
Yes, we are.
What's the growth been like?
So it has been a really good response. We have and we're live since July. It's like our fourth month. Our POS are going live this month.
Okay.
Softpos is coming in February. The project is going on as we speak.
Right.
And still we have been able to give our online experience to hundreds of merchants already.
Right. जो ऑनलाइन वाला है वो बेसिकली जो मर्चेंट है वो कन्वर्ट करेगा, वो उसके पास जो भी करंट वो लगा हुआ है वो आप पे आ जाएगा और आप उसको 360 डिग्री प्रोवाइड करेंगे.
Absolutely.
राइट. जो आपकी पॉस मशीन्स हैं, व्हाट्स द बाय इन टू दैट? डज द कस्टमर हैव टू पे और द मर्चेंट हैव टू पे? और
No, we don't believe in that because that creates a barrier to entry, right?
Right.
So the ideology is that you enable the merchant to completely digitize his collection and payments experience. And let me just explain that to you. So one other reason कि merchant cash prefer करता है is because उसको payments आगे भी करनी होती हैं. Right? So if you walk into a store right now, ठीक है, and it's the start of day, और आप कहते हो digitally मुझसे पेमेंट ले लो, और वो आपका कार्ड स्वाइप करता है और कार्ड स्वाइप करके पेमेंट एक्सेप्ट कर लेता है, he does not add anything to his till. उसका सप्लायर वेंडर वॉक्स इन, आपने देखा होगा दुकानों पे एक नॉर्मल प्रोसेस है, आते हैं कि जी या इन्वेंट्री दी थी इसके पैसे लेने आए, ठीक है, वो कहता है टिल में पैसे नहीं है, ठीक है. तो फॉर हिम इट इज़ वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट टू क्रिएट अ बैलेंस बिटवीन व्हाट इज़ accepted as cash in his till because he needs to make payments. इसलिए कि वो जाके बैंक से निकाल के नहीं लेकर आएगा, he will not leave his shop, right? तो what we have done is for all of our merchants, we have enabled them to also pay out. So any balance that they have accepted, अगर मैंने एक कार्ड स्वाइप किया है 1 लाख रुपए के लिए, वो बैलेंस मेरे पास है,
लेकिन वो भी मेरे अकाउंट में ट्रांसफ़र नहीं हुआ.
मेरे अकाउंट में ट्रांसफ़र नहीं हुआ, लेकिन मैं एक्सेप्ट कर चुका हूँ. Paymob enables them to pay that to anybody that they want, as long as he has an approved balance in his account with us.
So आपका जिस तरह let's say T+1 डे पे चल रहा है या 48 आवर्स पे चल रहा है, तो आपने two days.
Just to correct, POS में we do it next day.
अच्छा, you do it next day.
Yeah.
So वो नेक्स्ट डे के जो 24 आवर्स का वर्किंग डे का, आई एम अज्यूमिंग वीकेंड्स पे तो नहीं होगा, बट वो वर्किंग डे का जो ट्रांसफ़र हो रहा है, तो यू गिव 1 day क्रेडिट एसेंशियली टू दैट मर्चेंट.
Not really, because look, we owe this customer.
Right.
If I would give him credit, that means I don't owe this customer. He's the merchant. He has done a transaction. We have given him an authorization of 100,000 rupees.
सही है.
Now we owe this customer 100,000 rupees, but we are not giving it to him because we have to collect and then give it to him.
So आप ये कह देते हैं कि यार हमें बता दो कि तुम्हें देने या एक्चुअली कल की तारीख में उस बंदे को देने.
या नहीं, तारीख तो उसी वक्त में चले जाएंगे उस बंदे को. हम उसको ये कह देते हैं कि ये बता दो तुम्हें देने या हमने खुद रख लेने. अच्छा, इंटरेस्टिंग. ठीक है, अगर उसने वो 1 लाख रुपए उस बंदे को दे दिए, उस बंदे को पे ऑफ कर दिया, मर्चेंट को उसके पैसे मिल गए,
मर्चेंट
अब वो जो पैसे हमें आएंगे, जो जिसको उसने पेमेंट की उसको इंस्टेंट मिल गए, और जब वो पैसे आएंगे तो मैं अपनी किटी वापस पूरी कर लूँगा.
इंटरेस्टिंग. एंड द मर्चेंट इज नॉट, जो उसने पेमेंट किया सप्लायर को, डजंट हैव टू बी रजिस्टर्ड टू यू, इज नॉट पार्ट ऑफ डज नॉट हैव टू बी अ Paymob कस्टमर, डू दे हैव टू बी अ Paymob कस्टमर एज वेल?
जिसको पेमेंट हुई है.
सो मैं कहता हूँ फॉर एग्जांपल उसके पास तो 50 प्रोडक्ट पड़ी हुई ना, इसके यूज़ बहुत सारे हैं. उसका एक सप्लायर आया कि यार वो डिंग डोंग बबल गम के पैसे चाहिए मुझे, और वो कहता है कि जी मेरे पास तो अभी टिल में नहीं है, बट मैंने ये डिजिटल पेमेंट्स ली हुई हैं बहुत सारी. तो वो कहता है जी ठीक है, मेरा ये इजी पैसा अकाउंट है, इसके अंदर जो है तुम पैसे ट्रांसफ़र कर दो, तो वो उस पर ट्रांसफ़र हो जाएगा.
उस पर ट्रांसफ़र हो जाएगा. ही डज नॉट नीड टू रजिस्टर विद अस. ही इज़ नॉट आवर कस्टमर. Our customer is the merchant.
Oh, interesting.
We are enabling him to collect and we are enabling him to pay.
ठीक है. And so you mentioned a financial model, right? There must be a minimum buy-in for that as well. In terms of कि यार ठीक है, तो मैं मशीन के पे नहीं करने पड़ रहा है. मशीन के पे करने पड़ रहे हैं उसको? नहीं करने पड़ रहा है. You get the machine for free?
Yeah.
What's the minimum revenue required per month maybe or annual, जिसकी बेसिस के ऊपर आप वो मशीन फ्री दे रहे हैं?
Well,
कोई तो barrier to entry होगा.
as far as softpos is concerned,
वो तो I understand.
वो तो उसका कोई barrier
मशीन की बात कर रहा हूँ. हाँ.
मशीन basically what we try to do is कि अगर हम 6 महीने में अपनी cost recover कर सकते हैं तो give the machine.
ठीक है. तो वो ज़ाहिर एक arbitrary number है, वो डॉलर रेट के ऊपर अप एंड डाउन, तो उसके हिसाब से आप एक एनालिसिस करेंगे और उसके बेसिस के ऊपर दे देंगे उसको. ठीक है. एंड जो मशीन इन इटसेल्फ है वो, क्योंकि यार बड़ा एक्सक्रूशिएटिंग प्रोसेस रहा है ग्रोइंग अप. 99% ऑफ द टाइम अगर मशीन नहीं है, जो 1% टाइम है उसमें मशीन है, उसके 99% ऑफ द टाइम सिग्नल नहीं आता. और अगर सिग्नल आता भी है तो उसको यूज़ करना आता है नहीं आता, वो एक इट्स जस्ट अ थिंग, राइट? इस मशीन का यूज़र इंटरफेस कैसा है पहला तो. दूसरा ये कि ये बस डेबिट कार्ड एंड क्रेडिट कार्ड कर रही है, ये और चीज़ें भी कर रही है. लाइक हाउ, टेल मी अबाउट द मशीन.
Sure. So it's a smart machine.
Okay.
It's just like your Android smartphone.
ठीक है.
So for a user, it's just like using his phone. Right? He just needs to tap on the screen to go to the options and do a transaction, right? And our sales reps train the merchant to do that, and it's a very simple process. Today I believe with all these social channels like YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, the customer is very, very savvy as far as using an Android device or smartphone is concerned, right? So for them to actually learn how to collect payment, it's a very simple process. To get that machine, again, it's a very simple process. He just needs to apply for it, right? And then we analyze if we have to give him a POS or a soft POS.
Right.
Right? Because for us, it's not about whether we are going to enable him or not. It's about what are we going to enable him with, right? That makes commercial sense to us, and that resolves his problem as well.
Right.
He can accept cards, he can accept through accounts, he can accept through wallets, he can accept from any channel. We're even connecting right now buy now pay laters. Buy now pay laters recently evolved in Pakistan, where you have these organizations or institutions which actually have a customer base that they lend to. You can buy things from the merchants, and you can pay them back in installments.
Yeah.
Right. We even on our POS device and even on our e-commerce, we are connecting these buy now pay laters, so that becomes instrument of payment as well.
Right.
So you can pay through the loan that you have acquired from these buy now pay laters to pay to the merchant.
Makes sense. जो आपकी machines हैं उसमें is it I mean yes, all of these different players, do they have to come in with a debit card or a credit card जिसके थ्रू ये ट्रांजैक्शंस होंगी, या जिस तरह आई वाज इन द यूएई रिसेंटली और वहाँ पर उनकी मशीन के ऊपर मल्टीपल ऑप्शंस होती हैं, दे कैन चूज़ एन ऐप एंड देन उसके पेमेंट वाले के थ्रू वो आइदर कार्ड के थ्रू कर रहे हैं या उसी में क्यूआर खुल जाएगा या उसी में बहुत सारी चीज़ें हो जाएंगी. जो एक मसला नज़र आता था मुझे कि पाकिस्तान के अंदर 15 डिफरेंट लोग आ गए, उन्होंने अपने अपने क्यूआर्स बता दिए. अब वो एक शॉप है, उसका एक दीवार तो सिर्फ क्यूआर से भरी हुई होती थी, राइट, कि जैज़ कैश का ये है, ईजी पैसा का ये है. और ये मशीन क्या कर सकती है पोटेंशियली, ये बड़ा सिंप्लीफाई कर सकती है कि देयर इज़ एन ऐप फॉर एवरी पर्टिकुलर पेमेंट आई डोंट नो सर्विस. आपने बस वो ऐप खोली, आपने कहा जी अच्छा जैज़ कैश करना है, ये लो जी खोलो, और उसके ऊपर आपने कर दिया.
Why open a different app? So it's the same app.
ठीक है.
It's integrated at the back end with everyone, right?
Right.
So with Easy Paisa, Jazz Cash, everyone, you integrate at the back end, and
Right.
you enable the payment there and then. So the device, the app remains the same.
ठीक है.
You just choose a payment method through which you pay.
I see. You don't have to switch. उसी में ही buy now pay later भी integrated होगा, उसी में सारा integrated होगा. Doesn't matter if I have a credit card or a debit card or a plastic.
Or an account or a wallet.
हाँ, if I have a
whatever.
digital account जिसके ऊपर जो है वो, I mean, let's say again, easy paisa account है, not everybody has a debit card with it, but I have an account, I have money in that account, so there is a mechanism through which I can pay directly and
Absolutely.
वो verify करके मुझसे transfer कर लेगा.
Absolutely.
Tell me about, I don't know if that makes sense in this case, but again, जो QR का मैंने mention किया, वो एक mechanism था कि how do you simplify the user experience and transfer money one way or the other. उसमें एक 1 QR या इस तरह कुछ आ रहा था स्टेट बैंक की तरफ से, जिसमें वो था कि यार एक यूनिफॉर्म, एक तो रास्ता आया था जिसने कहा था कि यार मैं पूरी की पूरी रेल्स जो हैं वो यूनिफाई कर दूंगा एंड डिजिटल पेमेंट्स विल बी वेरी वेरी फ्लुएंट एंड वेरी वेरी लार्ज. सिमिलरली 1 QR का हम सुन रहे थे कि वो एक QR आ जाएगा, एंड सो इन अ वे plastic then becomes irrelevant because you don't have to like have 10 different credit cards, 10 different but you have just 1 QR, and eventually digital services will begin to integrate all of that. Like वो machine है या वो paper कागज़ है, उस पर QR है, आपने QR किया, उसने back end पे सारा manage किया in terms of कि अच्छा जी आपकी सर्विस कौन सी है, उसकी सर्विस कौन सी है, उसकी ट्रांजैक्शन किस तरह से exchange हो रही है. और अगर हम इंडिया में देखें तो UPI sort of did that as well, where they had that centralized universal एक फ्रंट था जो कि रास्त कहता है कि यार एक फ़ोन नंबर होगा, आपका काम है कि आपने पीछे से उसमें किस वाली सर्विस को फेंकना है उसमें पैसे.
Absolutely.
और दैट्स योर फ्रंट, एंड उस फ़ोन नंबर के आगे एक पोटेंशियली QR 1 QR हो सकता है जो कि आपको रिप्रेजेंट कर रहा है, राइट. थियोरेटिकली दैट it makes POS machines irrelevant for a simple mind. How do you see that?
Okay, look, QR is another payment method that we have, right? It can be on paper,
Okay.
and it can be on a POS machine,
Right.
to scan and pay. Now, firstly, regarding the rails, so yes, there were no rails for unification of QR, and that was one of the problems that adoption of QR faced in Pakistan.
Right.
क्योंकि जब हमने अच्छा थोड़ा सा एक हिस्ट्री में चला जाता हूँ. मेरे भाई ने इन 90s मुझे एक क्रेडिट कार्ड बना के, जो सप्लीमेंट्री कार्ड, सिटी बैंक के उस वक्त कार्ड्स आते थे,
राइट.
और
बड़े खूबसूरत होते थे, बड़े एक्साइटिंग टाइम होता था.
आई वाज यंग टीनेजर, तो वो
Yeah.
बड़ा अच्छा लगता था कार्ड कैरी करना. देन दीज वर वीज़ा कार्ड्स. मार्केट में ज़्यादातर जो पॉइंट ऑफ सेल मशीन्स थी वो स्टैंडर्ड चार्ट की थी. which were MasterCard acceptance. वीज़ा की भी थी, सिटी बैंक की, लेकिन पहले आप जब पॉस मशीन के लिए दुकान में एंटर होते थे तो आपको पूछना पड़ता था कि वीज़ा एक्सेप्टेड है या मास्टरकार्ड एक्सेप्टेड है. एंड देयरफॉर यू विल ऑलवेज कैरी कैश विथ यू एज अ बैकअप. एंड इफ यू आर कैरिंग कैश विथ यू एज अ बैकअप, you might as well pay through cash, right? That means you, as a buyer, I don't have the confidence that will I be able to pay it through the digital. QR के अंदर भी यही हुआ, जो जिस तरह से आपने कहा मल्टीपल QRs लगे हुए हैं, मुझे नहीं पता कि मेरी बैंक की ऐप उस QR को एक्सेप्ट करेगी या नहीं करेगी, and therefore the reluctance. तो एक तो ये चीज़ थी which State Bank of Pakistan decided to get into in the Rast rails and unify, and they issued a unified specification for QRs in Pakistan. Right? It's still in the implementation process, but that will resolve one of the problems of QR. The second one is, of course, the customer behavior. Right? The customer behavior today is more about that they want to, and look, QR market and POS market is two separate markets.
Right.
Right? The customer behavior on POS is I let the merchant do all the work. Right? So I'll be dining and I'll give my card away. And it would get swiped, everything, and they will just come back to you for the PIN. Right? Similarly on retail. In QR, you have to do all the work. You have to log into your app, scan. It's a simple experience, but it's about building that behavior.
Right.
A lot of people tried to incentivize that change as well, but it hasn't taken that change so far. So unification can do one thing, but you would also need to incentivize that behavior again after unification in order to build that buyer's confidence and change his behavior to a QR payment.
Right.
तीसरी जो QR के साथ लिमिटेशन है, या मैं लिमिटेशन तो नहीं कहूँगा, लेकिन जो डिफरेंस है कार्ड एक्सेप्टेंस में और QR के अंदर, वो ये है कि QR के अंदर यू विल मोस्टली बी पेइंग थ्रू योर अकाउंट. राइट? कार्ड्स में यू हैव क्रेडिट्स.
Right.
Right? So you have credit cards as well. So it remains to be seen how you bring in credit into QR as well.
Right. So the way that you'd see it is there will be two separate markets. QR की हमेशा separate रहेगी और कार्ड की हमेशा separate रहेगी. In a way, card is premium. अगर हम इसमें originally भी जाएं तो cards really started from Diners Club and it was really targeted towards a particular class. And even India के अंदर अगर हम देखें, China में देखें तो QR is more for the masses. The easier buy-in के यार ठीक है वो costs cut हो जाती हैं तो वो हो जाता है. But eventually people really graduate to cards because it's much more universal and
absolutely. So if QR is targeted to the same POS market, it will never succeed. QR has to be introduced in markets which do not have POS machines.
वो ठेले पे जा रहा है, वो
रिक्शे वाले
को जा रहा है, वो मोची को जा रहा है कि यार just give me money directly and it makes sense. मुझे ये बताइएगा कि अभी आप लोगों का जो ये डिसीजन था to come to Pakistan, obviously मैं अगर चलें, let's start with this. What was the thought behind it? What did you see in Pakistan that made you sort of bullish on कि यार something like this could work? Like I mentioned, अभी मैं बड़ा cynically I threw a lot of questions to you. नहीं हो रही, बैंक नहीं बढ़ रही. We have a bunch of these startups and businesses, but overall वो behavior change वगैरह नहीं नज़र आ रहा. तो मुझ जैसा बंदा जो कि उसमें इन्वॉल्व नहीं है, वो तो बड़ा कहता है कि यार ये तो शायद मुल्क कभी भी डिजिटाइज नहीं होगा. What were you seeing that I wasn't that made you really bullish on Pakistan and think that okay, this is the expansion that makes a lot of sense?
Okay, so two things. When we were looking at the market, of course, the first thing that you see is the market potential, right? Egypt is a very similar market to Pakistan, right? Culturally, how people spend their lives, it's a very similar market. How business is done is very similar as well. When one of our founders was actually landing in Karachi, he thought that the plane has turned around and gone back to Cairo. So the thing is, we saw two things. One was that the number of POS machines in Pakistan, it does not justify according to the potential.
Right.
Right. Egypt 4 years back were around the same number. So they have a population of around 110 million, which is half our population, and they had around 70,000 POS machines.
Okay.
Right. In 4 years, they have gone from 70,000 to 750,000 POS machines.
10x growth.
10x growth. Right.
And is that led by one player or multiple players?
Multiple players contributed. Okay. But the potential of the market was being harnessed. And how it was being harnessed? By adopting the right strategy. The strategy is just not to create good products. Right? Because a lot of good products have been created which have been not promoted or not distributed in the way where the masses could have benefited from them.
Right.
So Paymob actually not only creates those products, but also distributes them in a way where it actually reaches to everyone in the market, right? Whether it's on-ground distribution, whether it's our online distribution, we call ourselves a payments distribution company, right? Okay? Powered by technology, of course, right? So that is what we saw in Pakistan. There is a lot of potential to go into the market and distribute good payment products. And if you have a complete suite of products to suit everyone and the agility to improvise and to adapt to the market needs, there is no reason you're not able to do it. So this is, in one word, it's market potential. We believe that there is a lot of market potential. There has been reasons. With all of our experiences that we have had in the digital payment space, there are reasons for market not adopting it. It is very important to address those reasons.
Makes sense. And in terms of really bringing in newer players, like let's say for example के fintech player आता है, digital bank आता है, अभी वो licenses भी बटने वाले हैं, D bank है I believe, तानिया का जो आ रहा है, so let's assume वो आता है, वो अपने आप को live करता है. Do you have the agility, that the word that you mentioned? क्योंकि I'm assuming that the tech team is sitting somewhere in Egypt.
Yes.
And so
we have a tech house in Pakistan as well.
Achha, you have one in Pakistan as well. So you have the in-house
capability. We are
capability.
basically making a regional, sorry to cut you, we are making a regional tech hub in Pakistan, in Lahore. Yeah.
Oh, wow. And so you have the agility to be able to quickly integrate newer players, shift के यार अच्छा ये use case switch हो रहा है तो हम उसको real time पे switch करके integrate करके हम अपने आप को सामने ला सकते हैं, rather than के जो historically banking उसमें होता था कि बहुत एक slow process के through आहिस्ता हो रहा है.
Look, if we don't do that, we'll fail as well. Yeah. It's as simple as that, right? If you don't have the agility, you don't have a distribution network, you don't make the market aware of what you can do for them, of course the adoption will not happen. The reason for that is we are very objective oriented, and our objective is to digitize the market, right? So we do want to spend where it's needed, but it is needed to be spent on digitization of these merchants. And that's where we bring in our tech stack, which is already matured and developed. So it's not something that we are building from scratch for Pakistan. Of course, the team we have hired in Pakistan. But again, to answer your question, this is probably the right time to actually go into this business, because the cost of operations for businesses only comes down through digitization.
Right, makes sense.
Right. The second thing is that our founders are from Egypt, right? They have seen 2011 ka sara turmoil in Egypt, right? So they are not people who get scared very easily, right? They have gone through economic crisis as well. They are having similar sort of economic situation in Egypt that we have in Pakistan. तो काफ़ी हद तक हम एक दूसरे से रिलेट कर सकते हैं. And they have thrived in those conditions, right? So they exactly know how to utilize these conditions from their experience. So frankly speaking, we feel that this is the right time to be in Pakistan.
Makes sense. I had originally planned this conversation for 1 hour, लेकिन ये कि I mean, this was something जो कि बहुत अरसे से मेरे दिमाग में फंसी हुई थी चीज़. I really wanted to have that understanding, and you've been able to give that to me. So thank you so much for that.
You're most welcome.
There are a couple of questions that I'd really like to focus on wider beyond Paymob and your personal experience. पहला मुझे ये बताइएगा कि बल्कि rather अगर मैं Paymob का आपसे पूछूं उसके कॉन्टेक्स्ट में ही मुझे बता दें 10 साल from now, what's the image of the financial, or rather the बैंकिंग फिनटेक इस पूरी इंडस्ट्री की आप क्या इमेज देखते हैं पाकिस्तान की? क्योंकि पिछले 10 साल और आज में मुझे कोई ख़ासा डिफरेंस उस तरह से नज़र नहीं आता. बट यू आर एब्सोल्युटली राइट कि देयर इज़ अ लॉट ऑफ शिफ्ट दैट्स हैपनिंग. मोबाइल पेनिट्रेशन, मोबाइल ब्रॉडबैंड पेनिट्रेशन, young population that is very receptive to change, inflation making cash handling fairly difficult also in a way. बड़े बड़े नोट्स आ गए हैं कि अब आपको अगर एक एवरेज मोबाइल फ़ोन 2.5 लाख रुपए का लेना है तो उसको ATM से निकाल के लेकर जाना है एज अ ख्वारी. आज से 10 साल पहले वो चीज़ नहीं थी आपका, you know. There are a lot of other indicators as well that really make it conducive कि जहाँ पर आप कह रहे हैं कि मैं दरमियान में एक प्लेयर आया हूँ, वहाँ पर आपको you know there are different aspects of the industry की वेट लिफ्टिंग different लोग कर रहे हैं. कोई कह रहा है कि यार मैं कंज्यूमर को पहली दफ़ा डिजिटल वॉलेट पे लेकर आ रहा हूँ. कोई कह रहा है कि यार मैं जो है वो कंज्यूमर को you got all these sort of bazaars and retailers and all of these people who are also digitizing the consumer in a way, जो merchants हैं, कि उनकी जो sense of कि maybe I can have a POS machine is much easier compared to 10 years ago. If you were to go to that person and say, listen, like there is this technology product that you need to use, and it would be a different conversation altogether. इस सारे को मद्देनज़र रखते हुए, क्योंकि आपने जिस तरह 4 साल इजिप्ट की मिसाल दी, बड़ी मज़े की मिसाल है, और हम चाइना की देखते हैं तो कैशलेस सिटीज़ एग्जिस्ट करती हैं. ऑल हैपेंड इन अ मैटर ऑफ डेकेड. So how do you, what's your vision with Paymob 10 years from now, and overall how do you see the market 10 years from now?
Well, firstly, I'll answer your second question. How do I see the market in 10 years? And of course, Paymob would have to play its role in order to achieve that, right? If I just take your comment that you haven't seen the change in the last 10 years, the change is there. It's not visible to the customer right now.
Right.
Because we were at a time where most of the banking was check based. Right? There has been a lot of card issuance that has happened during this time to customers. There has been a lot of mobile apps that have been created. So a lot of digital channels evolved in the last 10 years, in the last 15 years. I remember when I joined MCB in 2006, internet banking was the buzzword. There were no mobile apps. They were plastics were there, but then penetration of those plastics was
very
not
niche.
that high, very niche. So in every market goes through a change, and this market has gone into the change. And this is the potential that we see. Right now, it's at that cusp where it's ready to take off. Because, like you said, there are players who are digitizing the supply chain. There are players who are digitizing the invoice management. There are players who are digitizing payments. There are players who are digitizing customer experience. Right? So, and the other thing that has happened, which is brilliant for this market, is everybody has realized their roles in the last 10 years. There have been a lot of tug of war. Everything I'm a big bank, I would want to do everything.
Everybody wanted to do everything, basically.
Right? Yeah. Now everybody has come to terms with the fact that, look, I cannot do everything. There's still few players who think they can, but most of the players have evolved into a collaborative sort of environment. And this is probably the most exciting part about the market right now. So BNPLs now, we need to lend. Payment processors, we need to just process payments. We as Paymob actually make it a conscious effort that we are not going to go into this space. Because this is our partner's space.
Yeah. We're not going to become a competition.
We're not going to become a competition to our partner.
Yeah.
We are going to be their support system, the infrastructure layer, the technology layer within their services. Right? So the collaboration has probably evolved in the last 10 years. It's a learning of the industry that the industry has gone through. And now everybody knows, like for instance, and I'll give you this example because it's important for us to understand that as a partner of Bank Alfalah, and I'm not just saying because they are our partners as acquirers, but they have opened everything to us to support us in utilizing the advantages from our technology, right? So a bank doing that is great for the industry.
Yeah, it's very progressive.
It's very progressive.
Yeah.
Right? So the thing is, I believe in the last 10 years, what has happened is collaboration. And these collaborations are going to now change the industry. So you're going to see supply chains being digitized from not just till the retailer, but up till the customer.
Right.
Right? The entire bit connected together. And if you have read the M-Pesa story, it was supply chain digitization from where the M-Pesa wallet initiated, right? So the thing is, until and unless, so it is very difficult. It is very naive to think that I'm going to give a good customer app and the merchant is going to start accepting digital payments. Because the merchant has to pay the supplier.
He's not going to go to the ATM or the bank to transfer.
The wholesaler to the distributor to the manufacturer. There is this entire cycle at the back end.
Yeah.
So if only the front end is digitized, how do you expect the rest of it to happen?
Yeah.
Right. So the thing is, we believe that the digitization is something that happens across verticals. In order for that to happen, the industry needs to be ready in all different aspects. Payments is one of them. We offer digital payments. There are others who offer loans. There are others who offer infrastructure. There are others who offer working co-spaces, right? So could you have imagined not having an office, still working out of your home?
Yeah.
Right? That's all a reality now. So we believe that we have evolved into a state in the last 10 years that the next 10 years, the digitization, the change would happen as far as adoption is concerned. So now it's time for the customers to adopt, for the merchants to adopt, because everybody has come in together, digitized their space, and now connecting with each other.
Makes sense. How do you see, and this is going to be the last question, but ज़ाहिर है आप फाइनेंशियल स्पेस के अंदर हैं तो उसके अंदर तो आपने मुझे एक sort of 10 years का रोड मैप दिया, बट कंसिडरिंग कि पाकिस्तान में बहुत सारे यंग लोग हैं एंड अ लार्ज पार्ट ऑफ, मुझे अगर मैं पाकिस्तान को देखूँ ना तो पाकिस्तान का जो सबसे बड़ा प्रॉब्लम है, हम अपने ड्राइंग रूम में बैठ के कल्चर डिस्कस कर सकते हैं, 10 चीज़ें और डिस्कस कर सकते हैं, इट्स एन इकोनॉमिक प्रॉब्लम. An economic problem is always tied to the way that business is done, is the way that financial literacy hai, financial inclusion hai, how much are you connected to your economy, right? And how progressive you are there. And so that's where your core expertise has been over the last couple of decades as well. Based on that, if you were to extrapolate that and give me a vision of how you see Pakistan of 2050, what would that look like? Knowing what you know now, seeing what you've seen throughout your life, how do you see Pakistan 30 years from now in 2050?
And you're referring to the financial space, or you're talking about?
I'm talking about overall. I'm saying take for financial space as a as a launch pad, but overall, how do you see the country in 30 years from now?
Look, we are a very resilient nation by design, right? We have gone through different circumstances, but we have always bounced back. So I'm very positive that 2050 outlook would be much more positive than we have today, right? Now, how would that happen? That would happen through efforts by every stakeholder in this country in order to make sure that we advance. And when I say advance, it means technologically, socially, and economically in every industry, in every aspect.
Right.
And I see a lot of people making and bringing that change. I'll share something with you. And that's when I was doing consultancy with National Savings. While I was working for the private sector, I always thought that working in a government sector, people will not be willing to work. And it would be a very difficult thing. But frankly speaking, when I went there, I found out that it's not the people, right? People are willing to work. People, I've met most amazing people during that time in the bureaucratic and the National Savings Organization, right? It's just that we don't invest into those people. Trainings, bringing them up the curve, letting them know, interacting with them. It has to be a cohesive approach. Everybody has to play their role. हम एक gloves बहुत ज़्यादा use करते हैं, public-private partnership. And that public-private partnership actually needs to get executed for 2050 to be successful. And that is what I'm seeing right now. I'm part of a committee that was National E-Commerce Council under Ministry of Commerce. We are working, I'm part of Pakistan Fintech Association, and I'm part of different such forums which are coming together in order to make sure that we evolve in every aspect. So therefore, like I said, I'm very positive about the outlook, and at 2050, it would be a much more digitized Pakistan, one, a much more financially included, because then people would have the reason to get financial services, right? And a much more prosperous, because it would be a documented economy, right? So I believe 2050 is very bright for Pakistan.
I hope after a very, very long time, recent times where people's sentiments have changed, but after a very long time, I've gotten a very, very positive outlook, and I really sincerely hope that inshallah we should be able to see that
I hope so.
together. But, thank you so much for coming in and sharing all the insight, because personally this has been one of my most favorite episodes, simply because of the fact that a lot of these questions have been on my mind for so long, and they're such well-guarded secrets, not by design, but because, it's boring, it's banking, it's happening behind the scenes, but it's really something that in a very non-glamorous way impact all of us. I'm glad that you were able to explain that out, and जो मुझे personally outlook जो मुझे feel आई है, सच्ची बात है, recent times में I've been speaking to people and I've been a little down. This conversation leaves me very, very motivated. So thank you so much for that. And overall I think what Paymob is doing, I'm very excited to see कि आने वाले वक्त में how do you guys grow and how do you guys scale, and the efforts that you guys put in to build this industry. Fawad bhai, thank you so much.
I thank you for inviting me here. It was a great conversation with you.
And for all of you guys, thank you so much for watching. अगर आपको एपिसोड पसंद आई, अपने दोस्तों के साथ जरूर शेयर करिएगा. Let me know your thoughts on digital payments, financial inclusion, financial services. आप कोई वेंडर हैं, कोई ई-कॉमर्स का बिजनेस चलाते हैं, फ्रीलांसर हैं, वो हैं, तो आपके क्या प्रॉब्लम्स फेस आते हैं पेमेंट्स रिसीव करने की स्पेस के अंदर, अंदर पेमेंट्स को आगे पीछे करने की स्पेस के अंदर। लेट मी नो इन द कमेंट सेक्शन बिलो। इसी के साथ साथ यूट्यूब वाले लाइक का बटन दबाएंगे, एंगेजमेंट बढ़ेगी, साथ लोगों से हमारी कॉन्वर्सेशन पहुंचेगी। फेसबुक वाले नीचे दिए हुए लिंक पर क्लिक करके TBT कम्युनिटी ज्वाइन कर सकते हैं, जहाँ पर हम डिफरेंट फीडबैक भी लेते हैं, गेस्ट रिकमेंडेशन भी लेते हैं, आर्टिकल भी शेयर करते हैं। यू कैन जॉइन दैट एज वेल। ऑडियो प्लेटफॉर्म वाले सब्सक्राइब बटन दबाएंगे, आने वाली एपिसोड्स की आपको नोटिफिकेशन मिलेगी। यहाँ पर कहीं पर ईजी पैसा जायज़ कैश सादा पे आ रहा होगा। इफ़ यूड लाइक टू सपोर्ट द चैनल, वी एक्सेप्ट एनीथिंग फ्रॉम ₹1 to as much as you like. होपफुली समडे हम Paymob को भी इंटीग्रेट करेंगे। बट एनीवेज, दिस वाज सैयद मुज़ामिल हसन ज़ैदी. You were watching Thought Behind Things. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.